Call to order. Bang. Welcome to this meeting of the Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission. April 13th, 2022. The meeting notice was posted according to the requirements of the Open Meeting Act. The meeting will come to order. Roll call, please.
First Congressional District Commissioner Kevin Potter.
Here.
Second Congressional District Commissioner David Conway. Third Congressional District Commissioner Charles Ortega. Fourth Congressional District Commissioner Lindy Ritz.
Here.
Fifth Congressional District Commissioner Blake Rainey.
Here.
At-large Commissioner Jim Putnam.
Here.
At-large Commissioner Chairman Jerry Hunter.
Here.
Thank you.
We have a quorum. The draft of the meetings of the March 9, 2022 meeting was sent to you last Friday. A copy is in your meeting packet. Are there any corrections to the minutes as distributed? If not, I will accept motions to approve the minutes as distributed.
I so move.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Potter.
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz.
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey.
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam.
Aye.
Chairman Hunter.
Aye.
Thank you.
The motion passes. The next order of business is item 4, recognition of aviation art contest winners. Director Arties and Sandra Shelton, please come forward and help us recognize some of our guests.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a great set of artwork that we have before us, and I know this is something that we've been doing for many, many years, making sure that we're able to see the artwork part of aviation aerospace, and of course this is in partnership with our National Association, the National Association of State Aviation Officials. We've had some great artwork displayed, as you can see around the room, and we have several of our winners that are here to partake in this great opportunity. So want to move forward with announcing some of those winners that are here. First place receives $200. Second place received $150, and third place receives $100, and honorable mention receives $50. And of course, all of the 3 entries go to Washington, D.C. The top 3 of the 3 divisions go to Washington, D.C. to compete at the national level. We didn't have anybody that won at the national level, unfortunately, but we've had some really good artwork over the years from the students across Oklahoma, and I know Sandra Shelton has been tirelessly advocating to get more of this into the classroom and getting more art teachers and art students to give us artwork throughout the years. And while we had a little dip during COVID, we are climbing quickly out of that, and hopefully next year we'll have many more entries to choose from. So let's start off with our first awardee, and that is Elvin Zhu from Frontier Elementary School, second place of the junior division, ages 6 to 9. You're come on up and here's the important stuff. And which one's your artwork? That one? Why don't you go stand by? We'll get some pictures next to it. This one? Right here? Okay. Why don't you stand on this side, I'll stand on the other side. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Next up, also from the junior division, third place, we have Matthew Henderson from Cyril Elementary School. Cyril? Your certificate, and here's the important stuff. So which piece of your artwork is yours? All right, let's show me the way. From the junior division as well, honorable mention, Alana Kaladi from the same elementary school, Cyril? Cyril, sorry. microphone's yours. Others that were unable to attend with us today was first place from our junior division, Grace Huang from Truman Elementary School in Norman. Our intermediate division, ages 10 through 13, we had first place Olivia Zhao. Second place from Plainville Middle School. Second place Ava Haik from Yukon Middle School. Third place Chan Lueng from Duncan Middle School. And honorable mention Daphne Greenleaf from Yukon Middle School. Senior division, we had first place Marion Winchell from, come on. Congratulations. Which one? That one there? All right, very nice. Did you stand on that side? I'll stand on this side. Get some pictures. Got one more from you. You good? Oh, okay. If there's one thing I know is you gotta get some photos. All right. Thank you so much. Second place of the senior division, ages 14 to 17, we have Alexis Reichert from Atoka High School. Congratulations, Mr. Mayor. Third place, Leona DeLora from ASTEC Charter High School in Oklahoma City. And honorable mention, Jose Lopez from ASTEC Charter High School in Oklahoma City as well. So let's give a resounding applause for all of our award winners that are here and not here today.
Come on up. Okay, yeah, it's this one right here on the end. She couldn't attend because her mom wouldn't let her miss it.
Well, hey, I can appreciate that. You want to take a picture in front?
Or with you at least.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
could you, just for, this is one of my students. She wasn't able to come today, so. Got it, thank you. For our students, you can go ahead and exit and go to the education room, and I'll be right there.
Am I allowed to do that, Sandra?
No.
Oh, okay. Darn. That education room is pretty exciting. We thank you to the commission for being able to support that over the years, and we've given several grants to the museum for simulators and other activities, and so hopefully the students can go out there and get some hands-on experience with all the aviation aerospace activities that the museum has to offer. And then, of course, we'll open it up for a tour after the meeting today and hopefully get to see all the neat things the museum's got going on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Grace. Do we have any comments from the commission? If none, our next order of business is item 5, the director's report. If you would, please, Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been a busy month since our last meeting in March, and has already been it seems like a full April, and we're only about halfway there. National Association of State Aviation Officials, we had our center board meeting. This is the center, this is the education arm of NASAO. They were able to convince me to join that. Obviously, thanks a lot to our own Paula Keaty and the great work she's doing with AOPA and how we're going to try and spread that message to other states and show them the success of what Oklahoma is able to do. So certainly able to share that with the center board and glad to be a part of that piece of our National Association of State Aviation Officials. Followed that up with our FAA Southwest Region Aviation Directors meeting on March 17th. That's a group of our directors from Arkansas, Oklahoma, myself, New Mexico, Texas, Louisiana. we get together every quarter. We've talked about how do we come back from COVID, get together in person. There used to be a conference called the Blue Side Up Conference, and all the pilots in the room will probably smile knowing where that language came from, but the Blue Side Up Conference was an opportunity for all of us to get together with our FAA partners and just have a honest and sincere dialogue of how do we work together to ensure that our infrastructure dollars are spent wisely, effectively, efficiently, and we're able to work through the process without too much bureaucracy. So looking to maybe try and stand that up again. I've talked to several of my fellow counterparts in the region, and they'd like to be able to see that because we haven't seen each other in person. I saw our ADO manager for the first time since COVID had happened, probably for the first time in 3 years at our OAOA conference that happened on Monday. And so it's good to see him in person, good to put a face to a face and shake hands and get to discuss in person some of the challenges we're experiencing. So great opportunity there. I know I've briefed you before that I have the pleasure and distinguished honor to serve within the Air Force Material Command, AFMC, which is obviously the parent organization to the AFSC, the Air Force Sustainment Center, which is headquartered at Tinker. I have the honor to serve in their Civic Leader program. I participated in the Tinker Air Force Base Leader program, and that's something that Sandra Shelton is now going through. And so this is kind of the next step up, and we're getting to learn about maintenance and sustainment on a national level and figuring out how can we as civilian leaders within our communities support our DoD and military partners. And so had a virtual conference March 22nd through the 25th where we got to hear from General Bunch, who is the commander of AFMC, and what are some of the challenges they're experiencing within the sustainment world, and how can we ensure that some of these airplanes that have been up in the air for 50, 60, 70 years now, how can we ensure the sustainment of those to be able to project that air power not only across the United States but across the world. So great opportunity there to partake in that event. Followed that up with the Aerospace and Aviation Career Fair at Rose State. This is something that's put on by the, did I miss one? Yes, I did. The Oklahoma Defense Industry Association, defense briefing with Congressman Cole. Obviously, Congressman Cole, we know, is one of our senior congressman leaders within Oklahoma, and we got to hear from him on some of the appropriations challenges. He brings a breath of fresh air when it comes to D.C. in terms of what he's able to provide for the state of Oklahoma. He's in a senior leadership position in the House of Representatives in Congress, and is very heavily involved in the appropriations process. And it's interesting from our perspective because we experience both the authorization side as well as the appropriation side. And normally we work about 70 to 75% within the authorization side. How can we go out and authorize different activities to occur? But it was really interesting to hear and learn from Congressman Cole all of the challenges that then go into the appropriations process and how do we go about doing that. And we hear about that all the time, that we're talking about CRs and working under CRs and how CRs can be challenging because we're working off of previous budgets and simply continuing those budgets. And so from the DoD's perspective, from the FAA's perspective, from all the federal agency perspectives that impact the state of Oklahoma, how those challenges, but this was specific to the defense area and how CRs can impact the DoD budget. And so that was very, very good to hear from the congressman and get to experience that. And of course, when Senator Jim Inhofe retires at the end of this year, he's going to be one of our senior standing Congress people just in general. So hopefully we'll be able to fill some of that void from Senator Inhofe moving forward. Now moving on to the Aerospace and Aviation Career Fair at Rose State. We had several of our staff members attend this. As I think we know within the workforce situation right now, it's a I don't know if you call it a buyer's or a seller's market, but it is a market for the employee. And we know, given the low unemployment rate of the state and the success that we've had ensuring that low unemployment, there weren't a whole lot of people at the career fair. We had about 70 or 80 people come through. But the good thing was, I think the first 2 people through the door got jobs that day hired on Tinker Air Force Base. So really neat stuff. And obviously there were others that were hired on throughout the rest of the day. But first 2 people through the door got jobs that day. So pretty exciting stuff. But it is a challenge. It's a challenge that our industry is facing on a regular basis on how do we get workforce for all the jobs that are out there and available in aviation aerospace. Beyond the Bell podcast, March 26th, I had the distinct pleasure to be able to talk about our aviation aerospace education program with Superintendent Mike Anderson. as well as one of the students from the Ada High School program. And of course, I know our own Kevin Potter got the pleasure to do that this past weekend. And so we're getting some time on News 9 there on Saturday morning. Pretty good discussions, and they are taking a very hard look and a very interesting look at some of the aviation workforce items that are ongoing. And so I know that's a continuing podcast that they're doing on Saturday mornings, and so we can send you the recordings from the ones that I and Commissioner Potter are able to do, as well as some of the others where they're discussing aviation aerospace issues. But a great opportunity to talk about the Aeronautics Commission, talk about aviation aerospace, and talk about some of the great workforce things that we have ongoing here at the agency. The Oklahoma Defense Industry Association legislative reception. This was the day before our big Aero Day event at the Capitol, and that was somewhat by design. So glad to be able to see that we're partnering up with other entities within the aviation aerospace community, and ODIA is really bringing on that association arm that we haven't seen within the aviation, aerospace, or defense industries for some time, basically since the Oklahoma Aerospace Alliance, the OAA, kind of went defunct in about 2012. So great opportunity there to see that, and Sandra and I were able to attend that particular legislative reception and hear from several legislators and visit and continue the advocacy that we were going to be doing the following day. The Choctaw Nation's Emerging Aviation Technology Conference, we were just there last week down in Durant, Oklahoma. We heard from FAA, from NASA officials, from industry leaders about this new, upcoming, and exciting industry. This isn't just about drones. This is about moving people from point A to point B. This is about how do we overcome some of the transportation challenges that we're going to experience? How can we do some of the biofuels, some of the hybrid flying that we're hearing about, whether it's hydrogen-powered aircraft or a combination hydrogen-powered, battery-powered hybrid aircraft. But really exciting things that they're doing down there in southeast Oklahoma. And of course, we know that's one of the crown jewels of the UAS and AAM industry, that test site they have down there at the Daisy Ranch. And so this was their third Emerging Aviation Tech Conference, and I suspect they're going to continue doing that in the future, given how many people were in attendance, and just a great opportunity to ensure that the state of Oklahoma is able to take advantage of the industry, recruit manufacturing, recruit testing to come to the state, to just be another pillar of the aviation aerospace industry, to hopefully get us to that number one point at some point here in the next 5 or 10 years. We followed that on with our Advanced Mobility Council meeting on April 6th, where myself and Doug were able to visit with the Advanced Mobility Council members. As we all know, that's chaired by the Secretary of Transportation, really kind of combining both the surface autonomous and the air autonomous and advanced technologies within the mobility sphere. We are working into 2 different subgroups. So we have a AV, Autonomous Vehicles Working Group, which is all about surface. We at the Aeronautics Commission are leading the AIR group, the Emerging Aviation Technology Group. And so basically what we're going to form is 2 subcommittees that will report up to the Advanced Mobility Council that I am on, and that Secretary Gatz chairs, to be able to help us figure out how can we make sure that each sector of advanced mobility is able to have the right regulatory and policy framework within the state of Oklahoma to succeed, but also how can we look together at the totality of mobility moving forward to ensure that the state of Oklahoma it's a point-to-point destination. We're not doing this in a vacuum in aviation or aerospace. We're not doing it in a vacuum on the surface transportation side of things. We want to make sure that we're able to do a point-to-point, end-to-end, destination-to-destination item. And so that's really important to see us moving forward. So that is my director's report, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, but I will stand for any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments or questions? No, Commissioner.
Thank you.
If not, next on the agenda is item 6, Aero Oklahoma Day at the Capitol. Sandra, can you please give us your report?
Good morning, Commissioners. Aero Oklahoma was a great day for Oklahoma Aviation, Aerospace, and Defense. At our state capitol, we hosted about 800 to 1,000 of our closest friends in aviation and aerospace. We had over 40 companies that exhibited on the second floor rotunda. Aero Oklahoma looked a little bit different this year. So they have recently renovated the state capitol, and they reduced the space that the public is allowed to use. So the fourth floor rotunda is not accessible for exhibit booths and things like that. So previously in 2019, we had over 70 exhibitors, and so we had to really reduce our space. It made us a little bit cramped, but we were able to get some really quality organizations and companies on the rotunda. This photo is Governor Kevin Stitt that addressed the crowd, and we had a really nice crowd. We had over 200 airmen from Vance, Altus, Tinker, the 137th, and the 138th. And if you see there in the image there, we also had 150 AOPA You Can Stop Fly students from our 5 aviation high schools of excellence. And I know Ms. Keaty will talk to you about that in just a few minutes too. So our governor did a great job representing the Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission, and on the rotunda, we have a challenge. It's difficult to hear. There's so much reverb from the dome. We can either have it in a hotel and have great audio, or we can have it at the state capitol where the heart of the people lies and where the lawmakers are, and so we just meet those challenges as we can. But the governor, had several television appearances and coverage that day, and I'll go over that in just a minute. This is Speaker Charles McCall, and that is Director Arties, and that is Colonel Sebrin. Colonel Sebrin is the commander at Tinker Air Force Base, and that's Captain Cedric Jessup, and he is the Navy Commodore. Did I say that right, Grayson?
Yes.
Yes, he's the Navy Commodore at Tinker Air Force Base. So we had a great representation from Tinker Air Force Base, a great delegation. We also had Major General King there as well. And this is David Seymour, the COO of American Airlines. He also addressed the crowd. We really made some great strides with American Airlines that day. We had a great interaction with them. They met with the governor that morning about 8:45. So during that time, I had 40 aerospace ambassadors, 7 teams, making 40 visits. I know it was a little chaotic, but we did the best we could, and I know that Commissioner Putnam maybe could speak to how his group did, and Commissioner Ritz, I know that you probably had a different experience with these students that day as well, so I'll let you guys speak to that in just a moment. This was our military appreciation luncheon, and that was with lawmakers as well. And it was really great because when General King came into the room, the colonel called for attention, and all these people stood up. And also I saw that Senator Pugh and Senator Racino were also standing at attention, so that was kind of neat for me to get to see that. So the Air Force Association, I want to say this, the Air Force Association Garrity chapter is a tireless partner with the Aeronautics Commission. They are there for us constantly. I called them a week before Aero Day because I realized that my caterer did not include water. I said to President Jeff James, I need 1,000 bottles of water. And they were there for us. Cirrus Aircraft sponsored that, Jeff Sandusky. The partners that the relationships and the partners that Grayson has fostered throughout his 12 years with the Aeronautics Commission, we just could not ask for anything more, and we want to thank all of our partners. ATC was also a partner with us. Kratos Defense sponsored the Military Appreciation Luncheon, and Pratt Whitney was also with us that day. We have incredible partners. Even the city of Enid was with us that day, so we want to thank all of our community partners. We raised $16,000, and that all went to expenses. We fed 850 people, and our caterer did a great job. It was Granny Hadwin out of Guthrie, and so we really enjoyed their food that day. This is another photo. You can see those students. And Commissioner Putnam, do you want to talk about your experience that day and how your visits went?
Yeah, we had 7 folks, a variety from Cirrus Aircraft, Aircraft Repair Center up in Tulsa, Aircraft Financing, airport manager, myself, and a president of an Experimental Aircraft Association chapter. We visited 3 senators and 1 representative. 2 of them had taken flying lessons but didn't finish up, and 2 others were lapsed pilots, so we tried to do a little air evangelism with them. They were all very enthusiastic to hear what we had to say, and I think we were right on target. We ran a little over, but that was because of them, not because of us, and we had a good time. it was very interesting to get up there and get to see these folks.
Commissioner Putnam, I really appreciate you leading that. I knew that you would have it, and I appreciate that so much. Also, the EAA chapter was with us that day. We had several EAA chapter members there, as well as the Redeemed Flying Corps and Route 66 Flight School, and also the flight school out of El Reno.
It's the Oklahoma Aeronautics Academy.
Yep, okay. Commissioner Rainey, you want to talk about your visit with the defense ambassadors and Governor Kevin Stitt?
Yeah, we had a great visit with the governor and some of the defense. They shared some difficulties that they're dealing with in the state that we can help with Tinker. And governor's really supportive of aviation. As you guys may know, he is a pilot himself, so it's just really supportive of aeronautics and the trajectory that we're on upward. So.
One of the things the defense ambassadors talked to the governor about that day was workforce. And I know that Commissioner Ritz and Paula Keaty are desperately trying to start earlier in our classrooms to get young people interested in aviation and aerospace careers. So Commissioner Ritz, you want to speak to that a little bit?
Sure. Well, first of all, Sandra, to you and Grayson, it was a great day, and we can't take for granted that we have these opportunities. Paula had a great army of kids, as you mentioned, from our schools of excellence, and just to see their expressions and to be in the Capitol and to realize everybody at the Capitol that day is interested in aviation. OU School of Aviation sent their leadership group, and this is a group that they have to compete for, and some of these kids are freshmen clear up to seniors in college, and they ended up being more or less the guides, if you will, to these high school kids. And it was really good to see them realize this is the up-and-comers, and a lot of them, I think, wished that they had had the opportunities that some of these kids are going to have. But the other thing is we have graduating seniors that had never been to the Capitol, and to be able to have meetings with and like Senator Pugh and get to know his background and realize that you can walk up and say what's important and why some of the legislation is so important. It was a good day. So thank you.
Commissioner. So it's really important for the commission to realize that it's our staff. We do incredible things with 11 people, including one intern, and Chief Wadsworth was running around that day just making sure that everything was in order, making sure water was where it needed to be stationed. We had 3 places that we served lunch because we were trying to separate people. We had 3 entries into the Capitol because we were separating 1,000 people from coming in the same door. The logistics of that was really difficult, and we want to thank Chris and all of our staff. Nick Young was with our airports team. Paula Keaty had her own aviation extravaganza happening on the first floor. Michelle Bozeiden, commissioners, we can't live without Michelle. Michelle does everything that's ever asked of her. Besides running the grant checkbook, she's out there just doing incredible things. And Ben and everybody, I just want to say thank you so much. Andrea, fielding all the crazy emails. And let's give the staff a round of applause for their hard work. Our Secretary of Transportation and our partnership with the Oklahoma Department of Transportation is so meaningful. And I don't know if you noticed this, but it was live streamed that day. The governor's speeches and all the speeches were live streamed. And ODOT was there with us, and the ODOT team is here with us today. They always take care of us to make sure that government transparency is in place and making sure that the Aeronautics Commission is represented through not only social media, but transparency in government. We want people to see that the Aeronautics Commission is out there building the Oklahoma airport system, and we're so thankful for them as well. Let's give them a round of applause, please. Because we want most of our money to go into airport infrastructure and pavement, we try not to spend a lot of dollars on developing earned media or paid media. And so we partner with Jones PR. And so this is a report from Jones PR. And commissioners, I know you can't really see that, and I can send this to you. And I think Andrea may have put this in your packet. But we had over 1 million hits for Aero Day and $42,000 worth of earned media. And so again, Director Arties gave some interviews, and I can send you these links, and you can go back and watch the links. And Director Arties, I'll yield, and if you wanted to say anything else, sir. Thank you, commissioners.
I will say the audio issues in the Capitol are nice because you get to really just kind of say whatever you want to say, and then you start clapping and everybody else claps. And it works out pretty well, to be honest with you. I don't know that anybody really heard what we had to say, but they clapped when we clapped, and they paused when we paused, and they were smiling. So it was all good. I think probably the most notable statistic that came out of that day, and I hope some of the kids heard this, but was CEO David Myers from American Airlines, and we had talked a little bit about this the night before at the industry event dinner that we were able to have. Was the A&P mechanic after 18 months of work at a career tech comes into American Airlines at the Tulsa maintenance base making $75,000 a year, and in 7 years they make $130,000 a year. That was kind of, I knew the numbers were high, but I didn't know they were that high. That's really jaw-dropping, that after 18 months of work at an A&P program, could even be shorter if you're doing it concurrently in high school, that individual can go start making $75,000 a year at the maintenance base being a mechanic, and that's without overtime. You add overtime onto that, and that number goes even higher. That's a great career. That's great salary numbers for Oklahomans, and I hope we hear some of these, the kids that are watching or the parents that are listening can understand what these are great paying jobs in aviation aerospace. And quite frankly, maybe a little biased, they're pretty cool too. I mean, working on airplanes, ensuring safety of the air transportation system, that's not just something sitting in a desk every single day, 8 to 5. These are cool and exciting jobs, and we're trying to share that message. And I hope that Aero Day at the Capitol, I hope that Women in Aviation Day, that we're able to do some of those things to just spread general awareness, because yeah, we are a team of 11 people. We have 7 of you leading this organization, but at the end of the day, it takes a village, a bigger village than we have here, and so we need to be able to spread that message. And I hope that some of those folks that are at Aero Day at the Capitol are able to bring that message back home and share that with their friends and be able to tell the story of what aviation and aerospace can mean to our state's economy and what it can mean for the next generation of workers and the next generation of people that are going to grow up here, learn here, and hopefully stay here with a good job. So, and yes, thank you, Sandra, for everything that you do. I mean, this is, I pretty much just kind of go where she tells me and do what she tells me to do, and it works out really well. But she is the thrust to everything that is available with Aviation Aerospace Day at the Capitol. We've been doing it for many years, but when she came on board 6 years ago and she started doing this for us, it's really taken a whole new trajectory. We are going into suborbital and probably will hit Mars in the next couple of years at some point in time. I can promise you that. So, Commissioners, I think we'll stand for any questions if you have it or any additional comments. All right.
Thank you for that one, Sandra and Grayson. Next up on our agenda is item 7, the OAOA conference. Director Arties and Nick Young, you're recognized to begin that presentation.
Yeah, I'm no longer allowed to drive the PowerPoint either, so it's a good thing though. The only thing I will say on this item before I turn this over to Nick Young is it was great to be back in person after a 3-year hiatus, and it really felt good to talk to our airports. You know, we have a lot of constituents, we have a lot of friends that we serve, but our closest partner and our closest friend is the airport community, and that is what we really are in business to do. So it was great to see these folks, great to talk to them about what some of the challenges are coming out of the pandemic, and how we're going to be able to invest this money that we are now able to invest, whether it's the appropriations we're receiving from the state legislature, whether it's the additional infrastructure funding that the federal government is able to provide to airports. Great opportunity, and Nick, I'll kind of turn it over to you from there.
Sorry. Thank you, Director and Commissioners, Mr. Chairman. It was really good to get back in front of everybody again with the Oklahoma Airport Operators Association. Last time that I was able to do that, it was before my time with the Commission, so it's great to see it from this perspective and be a part of that. I know that myself and Thomas Galloway, we did a presentation regarding Part 77 surfaces, as well as how that incorporates into the Aircraft Pilot and Passenger Protection Act to continue to spread that word. So obviously we do what we can in our reviews at the state level, but we need those local partners to make sure that we're protecting not only our Part 77, what we call imaginary surfaces, your transitional surfaces, your approaches, those types of things, but also making sure that we're protecting our RPZs, our runway protection zones, because what we don't want is to have more buildings come up and encroach onto our airports, because we want to make sure that we're ensuring that safety. So we had great conversation, great questions that came out of that. Ben and Kelly, they did a great presentation on the airport pavement management system that we do. We heard from Paula Keaty, as we know, always does a great speech on presentation on what she does for aviation education across the state, and always very well received, as we've heard several times already. She has a small army behind her across the state, and so they always show up, and then she recruits new ones at events like this at OAOA for those that haven't heard that speech before. And so it's great to still continue to spread that word, spread that message, but also to glean back from what FAA has to say, because as Director Arties mentioned, this was the first time that we were able to meet in person with Glenn Bowles, the ADO manager of our ADO. So having those conversations, being able to allow our airports to ask those questions directly, because often, especially with the way things are coming down the pike right now, there's a lot of communication that needs to happen, a lot of clarification that needs to happen, and so being able to ask those direct questions gets you a whole lot farther, a whole lot faster than a lot of the virtual things that we've had to do here over the past couple of years with not only those relationships, but also with the overall membership of OAOA. So great conference, great conversation, and one other thing that I will mention is as we all received great recognition from Sandra from Aero Day, in addition to that, she actually received recognition from OAOA for her work to put all that together. So this year's Atta Girl award went to Sandra Shelton, so if we could all just applaud her for that. So it takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort, especially, we'll be honest, especially if it's coming right on the same week as a commission meeting. So I know the staff has been running and gunning for the past couple weeks to make sure that everything falls in place for not only this meeting, but for OAOA, and making sure that we're spreading that word as we get those opportunities. So as more of those in-person opportunities come ahead for us and on down the road, we're certainly looking forward to having more of those conversations, because at the end of the day, it's best for the overall system, it's best for the state to be able to get back in front of people and have those direct conversations. So with that, I stand for any questions.
The conference going on as well today?
It wrapped up this morning. Basically, all I had this morning was a kind of a farewell breakfast, and they're actually doing a tour of Will Rogers today as a kind of final farewell.
Thank you very much, Nick.
Thank you.
Next up is item 8, our legislative, congressional, and regulatory update. Sandra, can you please give us an update?
Thank you, Commissioners. Last night at the Oklahoma Airport Operators Legislative Reception, we had about 13 to 15 lawmakers there. We were really excited to have that kind of turnout because the Senate was having an event at 5:30 and our event was at 4:30 to 6. We also had Lieutenant Governor Matt Pinnell, so that was really important. We had some really good, strong conversations with Lieutenant Governor Pinnell in the Oklahoma City Airport about branding, and Lieutenant Governor Pinnell's message was to us is that our airports are the gateways to Oklahoma, and he wants to make sure that they're the most attractive, and that when a pilot comes into the state, whether it's on a GA airport or a commercial airport, they want to make sure that it looks good and that people are friendly and that pilots are welcomed. So we look forward to working with Lieutenant Governor Pinnell on that and those initiatives. So through the legislative process, we have Senate Bill 258. A miracle has occurred, Commissioners, and 2022 is our year. So Senate Bill 258 repeals the cap placed on the Aeronautics Commission Aircraft Excise Fund, and it was not going to be heard. And Director Arties and myself, had strong conversations with our friends in the Senate, the A&B chairman, and Senator Paul Racino is a real champion for us. And so Senate Bill 258 was not only heard in Senate appropriations, it then moved and was passed off the Senate floor. And Senator Racino is so bad to the bone that he put the title on that bill. It is a live round, and I get chills standing here, 5 years in the making. It passed out of House Appropriations, and Representative Martinez, Representative Eccles in committee. He did a great job defending it. It is going to the House floor. I expect it to be heard probably next week. I'm going to visit with Representative Eccles, the floor leader in the House, and it is a live round. The title is on, and it will be going to the governor's desk after approval by the Oklahoma House of Representatives. We cannot thank Speaker Charles McCall enough. He helped us with that. Director Artis has been working tirelessly, talking and talking and talking, and so we are so grateful for that, and we look forward to that success and to give you in our May report that home run. So we're excited about that. Senate Bill 1147 is the bill that allows for the AOPA You Can Fly program to become core curriculum. Paula can speak to you more about that. Senator Zach Taylor is a pilot at Seminole Airport, and he is the author. And Representative Nicole Miller is the House author. She is our Transportation A and B chairwoman, and she is with us. She was in that reception last night. I had a good conversation with her. Paula got an email from the Oklahoma Department of Education. Upon approval and signage of that bill, we look for this fall. There is an emergency on that bill, which is Senator Taylor, way to go. July 1st, it will become law. The title is on. And so we are excited about that as well. Senate Bill 1830 is the Advanced Mobility Bill, and it is going through the process, and we expect passage of that. It's just cleanup language. Director Artis can speak more to that if you have any questions about the UAS portion of that. And Commercial Air Service, the bill 1461 was not going to be heard, and Director Artis had some good conversations with the representatives from the city of Tulsa, and they convinced the appropriations chairman to hear that bill, and the title is on. The title is on, which is unbelievable, and we expect that to have passage. The Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission has had an incredible year at the state legislature, and we are also looking now to the appropriations process to see if we can get a little bit more money for our airport infrastructure. And I would yield for any questions, and Andrea will also send you my cheat sheet on this as well. Commissioner Potter, I see you smiling. You're very happy. Good, I'm glad. I woke up today and said, Potter's going to be happy. All right, thank you, Commissioners. I appreciate your time.
For good reason. Thank you, Sandra. Next up is item 9, our partnership with the Oklahoma Department of Commerce for the Farnborough Air Show in Farnborough, UK.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Director of Department of Commerce, Brent Kissling, has been after us for some time to join the Commerce delegation across the pond, either at the Farnborough or the Paris Air Shows. There's lots of conversations that happen involving bringing aviation aerospace companies to our airports in particular. I know Alexis Higgins at the Tulsa Airport was at the last trade show across the pond pre-COVID and was talking about how many different conversations were surrounding our airport system, the things that people could do by bringing companies to those airports. And so shortly after that, pre-COVID of course, Brent Kissling reached out to me and was like, hey, you guys need to be a partner with us in this. And of course, COVID's kind of delayed that a couple of years. So before you today is that partnership with our Department of Commerce friends. Obviously, we have lots of communities that are going to be going to Oklahoma City and Tulsa, Ardmore, and a handful of other suburban rural communities. We have a lot of companies coming, I think almost 21 last I counted, different companies that will be coming with us to that particular trade show to plant the Oklahoma flag in the ground and, of course, recruit some of those entities to the state. And we've had some pretty good success at these trade shows. So I will stand for any questions, but staff recommends approval of the agenda item before you.
Do we have any questions?
How do I get on the team?
I'll pay for the mileage on the RV-12 if you can get it over there.
I don't think you want to take the RV-12. It might be a long time between bathroom breaks.
So, Director, you're looking for
Looking for approval.
move approval.
Move approval.
Do we have, okay. Can we call the roll, please?
Commissioner Potter,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey,
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam,
Aye.
Chairman Hunter.
Aye. Fantastic, the motion passes. Next order of business is item 10, our financial report. Chris Wadsworth, we are ready, sir, if you are.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Starting out with the financial summary document, as of the end of March, the Commission had an ending cash balance of $9.6 million. Encumbrances totaled just over $6 million. Estimated statutory revenue for the remainder of this fiscal year, which is the end of June, is about $550,000, and outstanding reimbursements owed to the agency total just over $1.5 million. The amount of expenditures in the airport construction program that can be incurred this fiscal year totals $3.6 million, provided those grants are approved. This will leave us with an expected available cash balance of $1.8 million at the end of the fiscal year. And our total fiscal year-to-date expenditures is just under $3.6 million. Moving on to the revenue document, total statutory revenue collected for the month of March was $367,803. That puts our total revenue collected through March of this fiscal year at $4.2 million, compared to $3 million for last year. So we're still up about 40%. You may recall a month or two ago that number was a little higher. We are kind of closing that gap a little bit year over year, but obviously going into the last quarter of this fiscal year, still sitting pretty good to be at 40%. And you'll see after traditionally end of the calendar year, revenue is always up. We've kind of flattened out the first quarter of this calendar year. And then finally on the 3-year average revenue, again, that gap is shrinking a little bit, but we are still up about $900,000 over what our 3-year average is as of the end of March. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. If there are no comments or questions from the commissioners, we will move on to item 11, the Aerospace and Aviation Education Program update. Ms. Paula, you want to recognize to begin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. You know, before I became a true aviator, I was always a little jealous that all the pilots and the people I knew signed their letters and their emails, blue skies and tailwinds. And now that I'm a part of the team, I feel like these tailwinds are really in our favor. I've never seen such amazing growth. It's fun for me to be a part of what's happening with aviation education in Oklahoma, and as these folks have mentioned before I came up here today, so many good things are happening in our schools. To this point, I can just pretty much stand back and they call me. When I first came to you 2 years ago, I was knocking on doors and calling superintendents that I knew. And now all I have to do is answer the phone. And they're calling and they want to know more about what's going on. The first thing I'd like to mention was that last week, Director Arties and I had the opportunity to have lunch with Secretary of Education Ryan Walters. And Secretary Walters had heard about the growth and wanted to know more. He said, "Tell me what's going on." And so we were able to share with him the number of schools that to this point have signed up to teach the AOPA curriculum. We talked to him a little bit about the Choose Aerospace Maintenance curriculum. He also volunteered. He said, you know, we really need to get this out to the state chamber and let other entities know about the growth. And so it was a very positive lunch and be able to share with him the work that we're doing. Right after our last commission meeting, I did fly to Frederick, Maryland to AOPA. I serve on the steering committee there for high school curriculum. It was great to be there because all they did the whole time that we were meeting was tell us what you're doing in Oklahoma. How did you do that in Oklahoma? And so as I left there that day, they informed us that currently, right now, we're number 1 in the nation in the number of schools teaching the AOPA high school curriculum. Thank you. It's a moving target. And the window for application is open until May 31st. But right now when I left, they said that we had more schools teaching it than anyone else there. And that at this point, as of last week, is 53 schools. So some of them don't have their full paperwork in, but they have applied and been approved. And so when all of that is done, I think we'll have well over 50 schools starting for next year. And we will continue, obviously, to continue the work. I was in Frederick, Oklahoma. I made all the Fredericks in the last couple of weeks. I was in Frederick, Oklahoma. They have applied and adopted the curriculum. I then went to Ardmore. We've been talking to Ardmore for several years. It's a given that Ardmore should participate, and they have a new high school principal, a new superintendent, and they were very positive, and they signed up to teach. I was here in Weatherford, when was that, Doug? Week before last, 2 weeks ago. Spoke to Kiwanis here, spoke with some representatives from Southwestern Oklahoma State University, met with some community partners that are willing to help the school, and Doug is here today from Weatherford, and I believe he told me they already have 60 students enrolled here next year for Aviation 1, that they'll be offering at least 2 sections of, it looks like. Yes, Sandra mentioned Aero Day, and Commissioner Ritz and I were with the 125, 150 students from our 5 aviation high schools of excellence. They got to hear from several different speakers, Colonel from Tinker. And then one of the cool things that I really enjoyed was watching the 5 superintendents of those schools be recognized on the House floor by the House of Representatives for the work that they have already done in leading the way across the state in implementation. I also had a chance to meet with the Innovation District of Northeast Oklahoma City. They have some STEM programming and some STEM funds available particularly for Millwood High School, Douglas High School, and Classen School of Advanced Studies. I will go back to them in about 2 weeks and meet again with them about the possibilities of some of those schools looking into the AOPA curriculum. If that should happen, that's inroads into Oklahoma City Public Schools that we hope that we will be able to share that information with them. I went to Okemah day before yesterday for the second trip to Okemah. That's what I appreciate so much about the work that we're doing, is that these workforce development folks, these chamber leaders, the mayors of these towns are reaching out to us saying, let's bring the school in, let's all work together. And then yesterday at OAOA, it was the greatest thing to be able to tell the airport managers about our work. And Sandra will testify the number of people lined up to hear, can you come and can you talk to us? And we're willing to help. We'll open our doors to our schools and to our kids. And so that's very, very gratifying. I'll close today by talking a little bit about the professional development. So if we have 53 schools, we're working with AOPA. As you already know, we'll be hosting the professional development the week of July 11 through 14 at OU. April Williams at OU has been helping us, and our whole team has worked. Andrea's been working on the hotel venues. We'll have 50 or more Oklahoma teachers, and then we'll have 50 teachers from across the United States, so about 100 teachers in for training for AOPA professional development training in Norman in mid-July. We're also hoping to have a Tuesday evening banquet celebration. The folks at Westheimer and OU Aviation have offered flights for the teachers, so discovery flights for them. We'll be touring the Monroney Center, and so lots of exciting things happening in the summer as we work for that professional development. Obviously, we're very pleased, really, really happy with the work that's being done, and I would love to have any questions that you might have.
Paula, I just wanted to make sure that everybody in the audience understood the relationship with the 5 schools, and that you're bringing new schools, what that looks like.
Yes, I'm glad you said that, Commissioner. As you know, we were awarded the FAA Pilot Workforce Development Grant, and through that grant we were able to name the 5 Oklahoma High Schools of Excellence: Ada, Okmulgee, Mustang, McAllister, and Pryor. And those schools had been teaching that curriculum 3 or more years. So they have an established program in place. Those 5 schools now will serve as hubs to the new AOPA high schools. So Mustang, for instance, will have 10 high schools under their umbrella that they'll be able, because of the funds that we have through the FAA grant, they'll be able to offer STEM days, whether it's drone days, whether they bring pilots in to speak. Each of those will have particular schools under them that they can mentor and help. And then so those kids that were there at the Capitol had the shirts on the back that said, you know, they were AOPA High Schools of Excellence, Oklahoma High Schools of Excellence, and then they will serve as help to the new schools that are coming on board. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
One footnote, Paula, we are hooked up with the EAA with Mustang Schools and their teacher there, and he's coming to our meetings, and we're going to be flying some of his kids.
That's awesome. That is so great, and that's what I told the airport managers yesterday at OAOA. I would not be standing here personally today were it not for the airport manager, the EAA guys at the Ada Regional Airport who paid my way to Seattle to that conference. That's the only reason I'm here. That's the only reason that we've been able to move this forward so quickly, and it's because of the community help and the airport help and the EAA members, and we thank you for that Commissioner, because many of these schools, and I tell Director this all the time, many of these smaller schools do not have the resources that they need to build this programming. And so we count on the community and the airports and the EAA chapters to help us move that forward. So thank you.
And one last, with the FAA grant money, you might want to mention what that does with the schools about going to the training session in July, about the teachers.
Oh, yes. Our FAA grant funds will allow us to pay the lodging and the registration for our Oklahoma teachers to attend. Registration is about $300 per teacher, and of course the lodging for 3 nights. By the time you put that together for a school, even though they're not having to fly anywhere anymore, it's still a little daunting. And so this FAA grant will pay for those teachers to be able to attend that. It also is helping us fund several really, and I'll talk more about this as we go through next year, several other really nice events across the state. And that funding from FAA is tremendous. And we are finishing, as we speak, our first quarter report for that grant. Is due next week, and we've been working on that to get that ready to submit. Any other comments or questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Paula. Our next item is item 12, airport planning meetings. Mr. Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry. So we've had several great planning meetings with our airports over the past month or so, and the first one, starting with March 10th, we went to Pawhuska Municipal Airport to meet with their assistant city manager as well as an airport board representative to discuss the installation of a self-service fuel system that they're getting ready to install out there. And so we just discussed with them a little bit of the ideas behind coming up with a good ramp layout to make sure that you're dotting your T's and crossing your I's on the separation standards for the fueling equipment, and also ensuring that you still allow for good apron and taxiway access for depending on where that goes as well. So just making sure that you think about accessibility before you go put it out there, and both the aircraft access as well as the Oklahoma Corporation Commission requirements that come along with that as well. And so we also went over some best practices for land leases, rental rates, and fuel flow fees out there. They've got some good development out there with some crop dusters that have located on the field and expanding some of the things that they do and fly out of there. And so we help them kind of think through the best practices as they look to build that out and to grow that airport going forward to maximize their return there for the airport, that they can continue that reinvestment back there locally as well. And then finally, we discussed some conceptual ideas for future expansion options and possibilities. They are weighing some different options as what it would look like if they were to extend the runway in its current place, or if they were to try to develop off to the west a little bit to expand the footprint out there. And so obviously very high-level planning items on that front, but we talked a little bit about the very preliminary discussions and relationship building to try to bring on some local partners out there, and how you can kind of really stretch that dollar, because I mean, as we know, especially with current pricing, when you start talking up those planning, extending runways, creating new runways, you start to think about those dollar signs and how far that dollar goes anymore. So talking about local partnerships, how you can bring more people to the table to really not only bring industry to the airport, but also to grow the community and just show how important it is to make those connections and those partnerships in order to really expand the footprint and the potential out there. From there, we went out to Watonga Regional Airport on March 14th. We met with their new city manager as well as their airport manager and their consultant, and we discussed planned expansions to the west side of their airport, as they now have there's a golf course that's now permanently closed and available for airport expansion to the west side. And the interesting thing about Watonga Regional is on the east side, they're very close to State Highway 8, which means you got the runway right next to the state highway, and then in between you're trying to put hangars and terminal buildings and those types of things while still trying to meet the separation standards as well as the transitional surface standards for vertical construction out there. So what they're running into are some trying to meet the current standards for what they have and what they want going forward. And so with that expansion out to the west, it really opens that footprint and gets them the opportunity to meet those standards going forward. So what we were discussing is what the preliminary layout options for that look like. And that includes ideas for the initial taxi lanes, access to those developments, the apron areas, vertical construction, whether it be hangars, and then eventually pursuing a new terminal building out there and really opening up the west side, because they do have interest, and they've had the interest for quite some time, but being limited on that east side, they really couldn't come into an agreement with a private developer that maybe wanted to do a land lease and build themselves, because they didn't have the separations that they needed in order to get the folks the construction and the hangar sizes that they were really requiring out there. So I think that's going to lead to some great items out there in Watonga, and so we finalized that by talking through what that might look like to as we finalize their 5-year capital improvement plan that they send off to the FAA every year. And that's a kind of a 5-year plan of what you intend to use your current and local and FAA dollars over for projects within the next 5 years. From there, we met with El Reno Regional Airport, so we met with their city manager as well as their new airport manager. As we all know, Adam Fox used to be with OAC, went to El Reno, and now went back home to Alabama, so they now have a new airport manager in Bailey Kinnemer. She actually was out here in Weatherford for quite a few years before she moved over to run the airport in El Reno as well. So good to have her on board. She was at the OAOA meeting as well, so it's been really good to be able to connect with her and kind of talk through what she's learning out there and offering our help in any way that we can. So it was great to meet with her as well as the city manager too. In this meeting, we were talking through what their 5-year CIP is, that capital improvement plan, because as we all know, with the bipartisan infrastructure law, there's all these different types of funding come out. So one of those things is what's known as the Airport Infrastructure Grant Program. So in addition to the non-primary entitlement funds that airports within the national system will receive annually, this includes additional funds on top of that they will get over the course of the next 5 years, beginning in current fiscal year 22, that they can also put those funds into their local projects as well. So what FAA had requested is typically you update those in November, send them to FAA, they start working to plan and program, we review those as well and start having those conversations with FAA and the locality. And so what FAA asked is, once these AIG funds became available, they requested that those CIPs, those 5-year plans, be redone and resubmitted to show those additional funds, because as we know, the idea would be to try to move some of those projects ahead due to that additional funding. So changing the timeline. So this effort has been for all airports that are in the national system to resubmit their CIPs that they just did in November a little bit earlier. So it's been quite a bit of a rush while still trying to get through grant season as well. So we know that airports and consultants have been working to update those for as expeditiously as they can. And so we've been trying to help fill in the gap and offer some suggestions, especially with airports like El Reno that are going through a consultant selection process right now and don't necessarily have that benefit of having somebody that they can talk to and work through that. So we talked with them about potential options and timelines moving forward for their projects, like their terminal building project that we know got pushed back about a year, but also moving in to rehabilitate the runway with the Joint SEAL project, as well as installing taxi lights. So talk through potential options and timelines for all of those projects. And then we also were able to give them a couple different options, fill that out for them, give them some samples and options just so that they can take that back to their board and approve that locally. So from there, that same day on the 18th, we turned around and went to Chickasha Municipal Airport as well. They also have a new city manager. And we met with him and the new finance director to kind of get everybody on board on the same page, and met with their airport consultant as well to talk through what their ideas are for the Chickasha Industrial Park. And so it's in and around that airport property. They really want to work to bring in industry and build that up. And so we talked through what some of those potential, what are the ways to best market that property, and talk through generating documents that show the available land area that's available for lease or building, or if it's outside of the airport fence, those that are available for purchase, those types of things. And so talking through land use and those types of things as it comes to how that works on a public use airport and what that looks like, and the potential options for what that kind of land area will look like. And then also making sure that they are advertising and showing what utilities are available now versus what might be needed depending on the areas of that industrial park. So it was a great conversation, great thoughts and ideas by the new city leadership out there, and they're really excited about the opportunities. And so are we with what they have going on with the Chickasha Municipal, and with them, just like everybody else. We talked a little bit about their CIP, as we were working to get those updates back to FAA as soon as possible. On March 25th, Commissioner Potter was able to join us. We had a meeting out in Bartlesville Municipal Airport, and again, we were discussing some of their upcoming projects, and in particular, ironing out some details with their airport city manager, airport engineer, and the Bartlesville Development Authority, first and foremost with their currently slated project of apron expansion and reconstruction to expand the north apron and allow for better access and new development options off to the northeast portion of that airport. And so first and foremost, we the FAA and the airport consultant were very eager to get the information in so that they could move forward with that grant process. So we ironed out the project diagram for that, but also we, more important, not say, well, some would say more importantly, but we talked a little bit about the development opportunities and what that looks like to expand out there and what that looks like to partner with the Bartlesville Development Authority and what they can bring to the table in terms of trying to bring some of the pliers that existing businesses out there and relocate them on site so that they can both realize efficiencies, grow based off of each other, grow together, and grow the airport together as they do so. So really good conversation, really good, just very good ideas, very good involvement from the community up there, so it was great to be a part of that. And so with that, we talked about what that proposed expansion looks like there on the east side of the property, and start working toward and getting ideas from the consultant on how to start lining that out, where things would be best put, and what that could do to really open up that development. So, Commissioner Potter, is there anything else that you would like to add on that item?
Things are moving forward.
It's a very fun thing to be a part of, and certainly appreciate you being a part of that conversation and really fostering that conversation as well. And our last meeting here for this particular meeting was at Ardmore Municipal Airport, and Commissioner Rainey was able to join us for that as well. Again, very much like with some of these other conversations, it's just there's a lot of potential out there at Ardmore Municipal as they're working to build up what they call the Global Transportation Industrial Park down there. A lot of really exciting things coming down the pike. First and foremost, we're really looking at options and ideas as we have in our current and upcoming ACP airport construction program. We know that there's a parallel taxiway project that we're looking to move forward with essentially as soon as we can break free the federal funding, and that's highly necessary in order to really open up the south end of that airport to the industrial development and the cargo operation development that they really want to pursue there at the airport on the south side. And so we discussed what that looks like, what the timelines are, and also pursuing the ARPA funding that is available and putting forth an application to that so that we can try to maximize the federal funding that would be available for that parallel taxiway project, because as we know, the more that we can knock out at once, the more cost effective that's going to be. And it's just a very, very important project to really expand and recognize and realize the potential down there at Ardmore Municipal. So again, it's very interesting and exciting to hear of the cargo operations that they're looking to expand on the south side, some of the MRO opportunities they're looking there on the south side, as well as some of the existing space there on the west side as well, and what that looks like to combine and utilize the rail system, and how can all that come together? How can that partnership come together to really make that, at the end of the day, a global transportation hub and industrial park down there? So very, very exciting things happening not only in Ardmore but across the state. So I will certainly stand for any questions.
Thank you, Nick. Do we have any? If not, our next order of business is item is item 13, five-year airport construction program.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So item 13 is staff is requesting approval to amend the current ACP. So this is the current iteration of the airport construction program. And this is for a project at Stroud Municipal Airport. And this is to add a taxi lane project in support of the airport's proposed T-hangar development that's part of our 2022 hangar program. And so essentially what this means is that I'm asking that we add it to the airport construction program now, because in item 14 I will be coming back to you to ask for grant approval to move forward with that project as well. So based on bids, total project cost for this is $329,675. The commission's portion of that is just under a little over $313,000, with the sponsored match at $16,484. And what this is what this project is intended to do to allow full access to the proposed hangar out there, so you can have access to both sides of the T hangars. And because it's a 9-bay T hanger with about a box hanger on the end as the initial idea. As we will learn, there's some scope review that will take place in that as we look to move forward with that project. But that's to provide full access to this hangar while also allowing for expansion opportunities out at the airport as well, to keep moving it on down the line and trying to keep adding hangars and development at that airport. So staff recommends approval, and I stand any questions.
It says here contingent upon commission receiving an acceptable grant application.
Yes, and so that's, we haven't received the grant applications right now. We do have the bids, and so as we work forward, and as we'll talk a little bit about in item 14 as well, there is some conversation and negotiation to happen on the vertical infrastructure side of that with the hangar bid and what came back with that amount. And so assuming that all of those things can be ironed out, because what we saw was the bids came back reasonable for the concrete and well within reason and well within the margin of error from the engineer's original estimate. But what we're seeing from the vertical infrastructure is some of those prices, we still have further conversations to go, and I'll hit on that a little bit more in the next time as well for the hangar portion. But this has, with all of our projects, the only way that we move forward is if that acceptable grant application comes in at this amount, they turn that in, we move forward with that based on these numbers.
Now, is this the airport at Stroud uploading a grant from us, or is it us going to the FAA in this?
So this portion of that, and my apologies, you're right on that. This portion right here is just the state-only portion of the project.
Okay.
And so this is solely for the taxi lane and the taxiway portion for that, and then the hangar portion be for the hangar footprint. So this would be the 95.5 state proposition.
Okay.
Thank you, Nick. Do we have any questions? Any other questions? Do we have a motion to approve this change to the 5-year ACP?
I so move.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Potter,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey,
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam,
Aye.
Chairman Hunter.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on. The motion passes. Next order of business is item 14, Airport Construction Grant Program Consent Docket. Commissioners, remember that any or all the items on this consent docket can be considered individually. Mr. Young, please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, just at any time, if I'll go through these, and we do have several representatives that are here to comment as we go through here. But if at any point we want to pull any of these out and vote on them individually, please let me know. Any questions along the way? Don't let me spearhead through this too much, but I want to make sure that all thoughts and considerations are brought up. So the first item on the docket here is Atoka Municipal Airport. So this is a project that we've previously talked about and added here recently, and this is the preliminary siting study and master plan for a new airport location out there. As we know, it's very landlocked, even as we can see from the picture on the screen here. Not a lot of room for expansion, and they can't handle the operations for what would be their design aircraft. So they no room for expansion, and they have a lot of pent-up demand down there that they cannot serve. And so what this is to find and go through the FAA process of a preliminary siting study. It's the first step into a new airport location. And then one of the things that you might notice is whenever we first brought this in and added it to the ACP, the project was originally slated with phase 1 being only the preliminary siting study. But after we further discussed this project, and there's not a whole lot of them that go on very often. You don't move airports very often. So as we started having conversations with the consultant and those that have experience with what this looks like, we realized there was a very good overlap between the initial preliminary siting study and the master plan that will give us that preliminary layout of what the new airport location will look like once that siting study is completed. And so this, the idea here would be to combine these into phase 1 in order to realize the cost savings that brings, as well as the time savings, because as we might imagine, it takes several years to go through the FAA process to site a new location, get the environmentals done, get all the processes done, the check boxes that FAA requires for the new location. And so any time and money that we can save on the front end is going to pay huge dividends going forward. So we've heard anything from, anything from 6 years to 10 years to 12 years before you could actually move forward with this. And what this does is allow us to move forward with phase one with both of these projects, realize those efficiencies, and be ready for the environmental assessment in 2024, which typically, if we were to split this out, would be 2025 at the earliest, more likely 2026. So it's really not to, I know it can look like we doubled the price from when we originally brought this to you, but that is why, is because as we started having those conversations, we realized that this was probably the best route forward to realize some of those, and to, as I'm sure the mayor would agree, trying to get this moving forward as quickly as possible. And so with that, I would like to invite the mayor up to say a few words.
Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for allowing me to speak to you today, and Director, thank you. In Atoka, we're excited about the growth that we're seeing in partnerships with the Daisy Ranch project, with the Choctaw Nation. We're starting to see a large influx of companies that are wanting to locate in and around the site, the test site. So as you can see from the photograph, this is it makes it difficult for these folks to fly in. No matter whether it's a small drone or what other type of aircraft that they're going to be testing at the site. Along with, we have a lot of industrial projects coming in at these. The management wants to be able to fly into Atoka to bring guests in, potential investors in, those kind of things. We don't have that ability at this point. So we're excited to see the growth, but in Atoka, we like to go from point A to point B as fast as we possibly can, and I realized on my 3+ hour drive up this morning that it would have sure been nice to be able to have an aircraft that got out of Atoka and got up here in a little bit faster time frame, but I would greatly appreciate any consideration from the commission on this, and I'd be open to any questions if you have any. Thank you.
And then just to put a bow on that, that is, again, a state grant proposition at a 95-5 split. Hopefully there is some reimbursables that come through that along the way, but since this is the first step, you got to provide that to FAA before they start even considering those. So since we know this is a necessary route forward regardless of that, we're requesting total project cost of just shy of $300,000, with the OAC share being $283,614 on this, with the sponsor share at $14,927. Second project up for consideration is at Claremore Regional Airport. This is a project to rehabilitate the terminal apron out there. It's certainly exhibiting some distresses, as we saw whenever we went out and take a look at during our inspections. So this is a project that utilizes primarily FAA funds, and we'll do our standard 5% match for this, the sponsor share. So total project cost of $1.3 million. Of that, just 1.2 of that's going to be a mix of state apportionment and non-primary entitlement funds from the FAA. At the sponsor and commission share, $68,500 for that. And one thing I will say is I talked with the airport manager over the weekend at OAOA, and he does send his regrets that he was not able to make it out today, but he did certainly send his regards and appreciated your consideration. So I send that here on his behalf. Next project is at Stigler Regional Airport, and this is a project to install LED runway lights, PAPIs, windsock, and rehabilitate their AWAS system. Based on bids, this total project cost is $803,200. FAA funds for that is just a little under $450,000, with the commission share $293,219, and the sponsor match of that is just under $65,000. So what we've done there is we've gone and entered in with a partnership with this project with some FAA funds, and then add a little bit more to, again, realize some of the mobilization savings and get some of those electrical items that they need done all at once, so that we can not have to pay for that mobilization twice. So that's why it's a little bit broken out a little bit differently. You might see with the 95-5 type of split, but this is in conjunction with an FAA project as well. And with that, I do believe that Bob is here. If you'd like to come up and say a few words.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Bobby Mauser. I'm the city manager of the Stigler, Oklahoma, and what a pleasure it is to be here today. It's my first opportunity to attend a commission meeting. Commissioner, members, Director, thank you for having me. I'm very excited that we're being considered for this additional grant money. Very simply put, it's important. It allows us to go 2 years ahead from a planning and a really realistic building perspective, and to get ahead of the curve and to stay ahead of the curve. And if you look at our map up there, you'll see some of our past history. With the Commission's help, we were able to build hangar pad sites over the past few years. Up until then, we had no place for anyone to build anything or do anything at our airport. The money's important, but I'd be remiss if I didn't just take a moment and really tell you what's important to the city of Stigler. You're looking at the airport manager. You're looking at the commissioner of Little League Baseball. I'm no expert on running an airport. I've never been the smartest guy in the room, and I never will be. But we don't have a discussion about our airport where we don't involve the OAC, our airport commission, our consulting engineer, and the FAA. And every time, this team has been here to help us. Their years of experience and commitment has allowed us to do things that we otherwise would have never accomplished. So on behalf of Stigler, the council, myself, and the mayor, I want to thank the commission and the director for everything that they've done and continue to do. Thank you very much.
Next, we have the Stroud project that I brought before you to add to the airport construction program initially, so I won't focus too much on that since you've heard the information on that to construct that new taxi lane for just under $330,000 worth of total project cost. So I'll kind of hit on the hangar portion of this project. So as I mentioned, the entirety of this project, both the taxi lane and the hangar, they did go out to bid. We did get some bids back, and unfortunately, those bids did come back higher than we expected, even whenever trying to account for some of the volatile pricing right now. And so with that, it's unfortunately much higher than what the city has budgeted based on what they had as their most current engineering estimates, and that's nobody's fault there. It's just a lot of folks are, whenever they're bidding these projects, since they aren't sure what the volatility is looking like, they're tacking on an additional 20-30%, and whenever they don't do those types of things to try to avoid the unforeseens, then that gets out of our margin of error that we typically allow for those bid pricing. So what we're seeking here is to move forward with a grant-based approval based on estimates, with the total project cost of $1 million to be funded with $300,000 worth of OAC commission funds. Excuse me, if we could go to the next slide. I think we got one more. Here we go. Sorry about that. So this is for the basically the standard hangar grant program breakout of 30% up to $1 million. I think bids came back at right around 1.3 for the hangar itself, and so as we can see, that's a little bit higher than what we had anticipated for this project. So what the idea is, we're going to go back to the low bidder. All these bids came out basically the end of last week, and so we haven't had a lot of time to have those conversations with the low bidder. And given that so many contractors are not holding bids very long right now at all, for some, I mean, I've heard as little as 3 days, a week. It's folks are really, obviously that's not sustainable for us, and we have to talk through those and allow, especially at those pre-bid meetings, make sure that they know that there's going to have to be some kind of time period to allow for approval of our commission, approval of city councils for these types of projects. And so what we're trying to do is to get ahead of that a little bit as we approve this, since we don't anticipate the commission share of this will change, since we do expect it to be right at or a little above $1 million for this project. What we are hoping is that, the OAC portion of that would not change at $300,000, and as we have those negotiations and try to bring down those bid prices or review the scope to see what can work and make a viable alternative to move forward with, for the city to move forward with, we hope that once we get that done, since we have your approval based on these estimates, again, based on an acceptable grant application, as we talked about before, as long as we can have this pre-approval to move forward with that, that gives the consultant, the airport, the flexibility to get to an acceptable number within our normal margin of error, agree on a scope, and then move forward, because we do understand that we are looking at probably a more than $1 million project cost here. So we know that the OAC portion will not go up, and so that's that's why we are looking for an approval based on estimates, even though we typically don't do that very often. It's just kind of the state of where we're at and trying to get ahead of that curve. So before I bring Bob Pearman up, is there any questions that I could answer on that portion before I allow the city to come up and give a few words? So Bob, if you'd like to come up, say a few.
Morning, Commission. Appreciate the opportunity to share with you a little bit of what's going on at Stroud. In the past few years, we've built a pilot's lounge. We've got new hangars, we've got fuel. We see the need for expansion. We've got a mechanic shop that's expressed interest in expansion. We've got a waiting list, and we've got requests for hangars. We have a large engine repair facility, Mint Turbines, that's there, that has expressed the desire and the need to be able to bring planes in and repair engines. So that is a possibility that we're looking forward to in the future. Our mayor is a very forward-thinking mayor with the airport as one of his main agenda items. And the city works with the hospital authority, the industrial authority, and the city of Stroud, and we've partnershiped on everything that we've done at the airport. And we'd appreciate your consideration for us as a new partner for that. The bids come back a lot higher than we thought. Inflation was kind of a hiccup. Fortunately, the city of Stroud is financially able to cover the difference, and I feel assured that that will happen. We appreciate your vision. We were kind of on a kind of at a place where we were kind of hung up in your hangar program, kind of got us over that hump. We appreciate that. We appreciate your vision. Thank you from all the people at Stroud. Do you have any questions for me? Thank you.
And one more on the docket here for Tahlequah Municipal Airport. And this is a project to rehabilitate the apron and improve safety areas. So the total project cost on this is just a little over $830,000 to be funded with primarily FAA funds here to the tune of $600,000. With the commission share, it's $191,000, and the sponsor share of $41,634. And so this is, again, another standard kind of partnership that we'll do with some NPE funding at the FAA level to try to get to the full project amount. So again, a little bit different than a 95.5 or a partnership to do half a local match, because there were a few more things that needed to be accomplished to really get this project completely underway and complete both the apron and the runway safety area items that need to be addressed. And so with that, I'd also like to bring up Brian Lambert.
Thank you, Commission. Appreciate the time to be here. I'm new to the airport management job. I'm about working on 4 months at Tahlequah, so I really want to use this as a catalyst to move forward to get Tahlequah off high center with our airport, get new things going, and I really appreciate your consideration on this, and I think it'll be what we need to get some new construction going in the area, get some people interested in what we can offer. So really appreciate your time.
And that is all the projects for the consent docket, and I certainly stand for any questions.
Thank you, Nick. Do we have any questions? Do we have a motion to approve the consent docket as presented?
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Potter,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey,
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam,
Aye.
Chairman Hunter.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Motion passes. Next order of business is item 15, FAA Flight Inspection Services Agreement. Director Arties, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is our regular annual allotment to our FAA partners for flight inspection services. We need to renew the agreement for another $50,000. As we know, this flight inspections occur throughout the years as projects happen, whether it's VASIs, PAPIs, ODLs, or other electrical items, navigational items that need to be inspected that we at the state are installing or the airport using their entitlement monies are installing. And so staff recommends approval to replenish the agreement with $50,000. I'll stand for any questions.
Do we have a motion to approve to authorize the director to renew this agreement?
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Potter,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey,
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam,
Aye.
Chairman Hunter.
Aye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Next order of business is item 17, review of upcoming aviation and aerospace events. Sandra, you may begin.
Commissioners, thank you so much for coming to Weatherford today. We know that's a bit of a drive for many of us, and we appreciate you coming out. It's important for us to visit our airports in the community. Director Arties knows that, understands that vision. With the 108 airports in the system, we need to be more among the airports, and so we appreciate this effort. Wings Over Weatherford will be in 2023. I just confirmed that. And until then, we do have Ponca City has resumed their breakfast and fly-ins. I saw Dawn at Ponca City yesterday, and so we are excited about that. I'm looking forward to getting Jerry up there to Ponca City, getting some pancakes. Enid Woodring, hold on, there we go. Enid Woodring is having a fly-in breakfast on April 16th. AVSI is April 25th through 28th, and I'm not sure if there's Aeronautics have a representative going. Yeah, so Doug is going to that. MRO Americas will be Tuesday, April 26th in Dallas, Texas. The A26 is flying in Ada on May, is it flying, Commissioner Putnam?
It's moved out, so it's flown away.
Yeah, okay, so it's in Ada now, and on May 21st, they're having a fly-in, so I'm sure Paula will have 1,000 kindergartners on the runway. And TASM Aviator Ball, Tanya Blansett asked me to share with you, Commissioners, it's important that we support these aviation programs, especially the Tulsa Air and Space Museum. If you can help, tell your friends, tell your aviation friends, tell your corporate friends. The Tulsa Air and Space Museum needs that support, and that'll be in May. And then the Okie Derby is August 20th, and maybe I'll be in it this year at Sundance Airport. So if you have aviation events, please email me at sshelton@oac.ok.gov. Thank you, Commissioners.
We also have the Ford Tri-Motor at Sundance this weekend.
Oh, good. Okay, I didn't see that. Okay, it wasn't. So I need to talk to OPA about updating their list of events too. I'll reach out to them.
All right.
Okay, sir. All right, thank you, Commissioners. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sandra. Are there any item 17, concluding remarks? We'll entertain any remarks regarding agenda items at this time.
Just want to say thank you to Mayor Mike Brown for hosting us today. I know he was here earlier. Is he? Nope. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you to the mayor and hosting us in this great facility. I mean, this really is amazing here at the Stafford Air and Space Museum. It's a little crown jewel in the Central Plains of the United States. It truly is an amazing facility. And for those that may have parked on the north side of the parking lot, or Commissioner Hunter that flew in, you saw some construction up there on the new terminal building, and that's obviously thanks to this commission for doing that. And hopefully we'll be returning maybe in late summer or early fall for a big ribbon cutting and celebration. So if contractor keeps on track, hopefully we'll be able to do that and have a nice big return event. And I just want to say thank you to SWASU President Dr. Lovell for attending our meeting today. Really great things they're doing there for helping that #1 challenge we have in workforce development. So I just want to say thank you. If we want to continue doing these, maybe one a year where we do a little traveling show bring the commission out to a different location. I know the mayor's always said that we're always welcome to Weatherford. So certainly would entertain that at the pleasure of you all to travel about on some of these commission meeting days. So that, Mr. Chairman, concludes my concluding remarks, but I'll entertain any others and entertain any questions.
If we have no others, thank you very much, Grayson. On to item 19, announcement of the next meeting, which will be 10 a.m. on Wednesday, May 11th, in the first floor conference room at the Oklahoma Department of Transportation at 200 Northeast 21st Street in Oklahoma City. Item 20, is there any new business? If not, or hearing none, thank you. I declare this meeting adjourned. Ma'am?